Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, cottagers! Today I wanted to talk about some of my absolute favorite farming sim mechanics. Some of them add a touch of realism to the games, while others give an element of whimsy, but what they all share is the ability to get me excited about any new game that includes them. There is no particular order to this list, so let's get right into it. Animals actually graze. And look, we don't need an animation for this, though it is really satisfying to see your livestock cut down really tall grass first thing in the morning. But let's be honest, some of these games really put us through our paces getting our animals outside for the day. I think it would be a nice little reward if when we did let them out, we didn't have to provide them additional fodder. Plus, it can be really satisfying to be able to use animals to do a little landscaping around the farm. Though there is one caveat to this, and that leads me into our next mechanic. Chickens don't eat hay. Let's be honest, you can put chickens out to free range and they'll find plenty of bugs picking around in the grass, but they do not eat hay or fodder. So it makes sense that in the winter or when there's bad weather and we have to keep them inside, we really should be feeding them chicken feed. My favorite thing is when farming sims allow us to grow the grains ourselves, like corn for instance, and use a mill to turn it into chicken feed. Or, of course, we can always hit up our local livestock dealer and get some ready-made. Crop location matters. Because the gameplay loop of farming sims is often fairly simplistic, I love when the complexity comes from the gardening itself. Needing to leave adequate space for fruit trees, keeping crops separated so they don't hybridize, or planting them next to one another for a little bit of permaculture pest control is always a nice touch in a farming sim. Some games have also given us different mediums to plant in to allow for things like aquaculture or mushroom cultivation, and they just add an additional layer of optional complexity to the farming routine. Varied weather forecasts. I love when games differentiate between morning and afternoon weather. There's something really immersive about doing your chores early and then rushing back to try and put your animals away before the rain starts after lunch. Different natural disasters or storms that roll in also help to break up the days and keep the game feeling fresh. Thunderstorms, typhoons, blizzards, even flurries of cherry blossom petals can all augment your experience. Farmers are often some of the most in tune with nature, so it makes sense that much of their schedules revolve around the weather and how it changes. Distinct seasonal changes. Now, most farming sims provide some measure of seasonal change, but my favorite ones always have this little something extra that draws you in, whether it be mushrooms appearing all over the forest, growing on fallen logs, dark winter mornings where the sun rises while you're doing your chores, or rare foraged produce that only grows for a few days out of the year. They all help to highlight how much changes from season to season or day to day. Even more special are when you stumble across these changes and it's like a little holiday surprise, a bush full of berries that you've never seen before, or catching salmon after salmon in the river that you fished in 100 times. Little nudges from nature to remember to pay attention and take everything in. Dogs as livestock guardians. I love companion animals in farming sims, but there's something extra lovely about being given a puppy to raise, feeding it, caring for it daily, and then watching it protect your prize-winning chicken. Dogs in farming sims are our constant companions, but they become something like our farming deputy when they help us work. It's nice to see a nod to all the working animals that appear on farms in real life, who spend their lives patrolling and ensuring their fellow animals are kept safe from any predators that might cause them harm. Supernatural forest friends. My final favorite farming sim mechanic is the presence of the supernatural. Goddesses, harvest sprites, even cryptids living in the woods are something I love about my farming sims and I miss when they're not there. Being as in tune with nature as we are on our farms, it just makes all the more sense that we would be the ones to discover these otherworldly beings in the woods near our home. Maybe it's the little Raz in me that has always loved my neighbor Totoro, but the promise of befriending some fantastical creature or otherworldly entity appeals to me. I think the more farming sims that include these often hilarious, quirky characters, the better. And this concludes my list of my favorite farming sim mechanics. Did our lists match up? Were there any entries that you think I should have included? Let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I stream my playthroughs of farming sims over on Twitch, and I'm currently on a mission to play through every Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons game by Marvelous. I post my schedule up in the community tab every week in case you're ever interested in joining the live shows. And thanks again for all the likes and comments and subscriptions so far. It's been a real pleasure to get to connect with so many people over these games that we all really love. And with that, I hope you all have an excellent rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, cottagers, and I'll see you next time.